All right, today we're diving deep into a force that's quietly reshaping our world. We're talking about algorithmic governance, basically how invisible lines of code are starting to make some really big decisions in our lives. We're going to peel back the curtain and see how this code is writing the new rules.
So just think about this for a second. Who or what is actually making the call on things that can totally change the course of your day or even your life? We're talking student loans, public services, you name it. For the longest time, the answer was pretty simple. A person, a clerk, a loan officer, some kind of bureaucrat. But that is changing, and it's changing fast.
Yep, more and more the decision maker isn't a person at all. It's a piece of software, an automated system that's crunching a ton of data to spit out an answer. This is the new reality, the heart of what some people are calling the algorithmic state.
Okay, so what does that even mean, really? Governed by algorithms. It sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's very real. Let's break it down.
So, in a nutshell, algorithmic governance is when we use these automated computer systems to run parts of our public services. And this isn't just one thing, it's a huge spectrum. On one end, you have really simple if-then rules. But on the other end, you've got sophisticated AI that can actually learn and change on its own. It's a whole new way of organizing society, and it's all built on code.
And this whole thing didn't just pop up overnight. It's been evolving for decades. Back in the 90s, it started simple, right? Automating stuff like pre-filling your tax forms. Then, in the 2000s, things got a little more complex. Different government systems started talking to each other to make more complicated, changed decisions. But today? Well, today we're in a whole new ballgame with AI that can predict things, score risks, and even talk to us through chatbots. So you have to ask, why? Why this huge push to automate everything? Well, it's because these systems come with some pretty big promises for making government work a whole lot better.
And I mean, the potential upside here is massive. Just imagine, all that soul-crushing paperwork that public employees do, automate it. Free them up to handle the really tricky cases that need a human touch. That's a huge productivity boost. And what about predicting the future? AI can analyze data to spot a health crisis before it explodes, or help policymakers make smarter decisions about where to spend our money. And for you and me, this could mean getting a passport renewed in a few clicks instead of a few months. It's a really powerful vision.
So the dream is a government that's super efficient, that runs with the speed and smarts of a tech company. But, and this is a big but, this shiny, frictionless future has a dark side. It comes with some very serious risks.
And that brings us to the much more complicated part of the story. When code makes the rules, what happens when the code gets it wrong? Wow, this quote really just cuts right to the heart of the issue, doesn't it? When a complex human being gets boiled down to nothing more than a risk score or a percentage point, something essential is lost. We are so much more than that. And that's where we run into a massive problem: algorithmic discrimination. You've probably heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out. Well, if you train an AI on historical data that's full of human bias, guess what the AI learns to do? It learns to be biased, creating outcomes that can unfairly hurt entire groups of people and make existing inequalities even worse.
And listen, this isn't some theoretical sci-fi problem. It's happening right now. We've seen documented cases of algorithms leading to the over-policing of certain neighborhoods, contributing to biased bail and sentencing decisions, and facial recognition that just plain doesn't work as well for women and people of color. And on top of all that, you have the black box problem. If you get a decision you think is unfair, how can you possibly fight it if no one can even explain how the algorithm made its choice?
Okay, so the risks are clearly huge. The big question is, what is anyone doing about it? Right now, we're seeing two very different philosophies taking shape on the world stage, creating two competing rule books for how to handle AI.
So you've basically got two camps. In one corner, you have the European Union. They're putting fundamental human rights right at the center of their strategy. It's all about safety and protecting people. In the other corner, you have the United States, which has recently shifted to focus much more on innovation, on making sure it stays number one in the global AI race. And these two very different starting points could mean very different futures for all of us. Let's take a closer look at the EU's game plan, because it's pretty fascinating. They've created this pyramid of risk. Right at the very top, you have what they call unacceptable risk. Think government social scoring or predictive policing based just on profiling. The EU's answer? Banned, gone, not allowed. Step down a level and you get to high risk. This is stuff like using AI to decide welfare benefits or in the justice system. These aren't banned, but they come with a ton of strings attached, like mandatory human oversight. It's a very deliberate top-down way of trying to get this right. All right, now let's hop across the pond and see what's been happening in the United States, because the story there has been one of a really significant change in direction. And this table really tells the story. On the left, you got the blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights from 2023. Its stated goal, protecting the public. It talked about actively fighting discrimination. Now look to the right at the 2025 AI Action Plan. The main goal has shifted to maintaining global dominance. Notice the language change on fairness, too. It moved from actively mitigating discrimination to ensuring ideological neutrality and removing specific mentions of things like diversity and equity. That shift from a focus on rights to a focus on dominance could have some major real-world consequences.
Now, as you can imagine, this policy shift has not gone unnoticed. Civil rights groups like the ACLU have been very vocal, arguing that this is a major step backward that could leave already vulnerable people even more exposed to the harms of biased, unchecked AI.
Okay, so we've looked at the promise, the perils, and the global politics of it all. So what's the answer? What are the practical, real-world solutions for making sure these incredibly powerful systems actually serve us?
Well, one of the most promising tools is something called an algorithmic impact assessment. The easiest way to think about it is like an environmental impact report, but for an algorithm. Before a government agency can roll out a new AI system, they have to put it through this process, forcing them to ask the tough questions before it can do any harm. Where did the data come from? Could it have a negative impact? And if so, what's the plan to fix it?
But really, it's not just about one report, is it? It's about a whole new way of thinking. It's about always keeping a human in the loop for those crucial decisions. It's about actually involving the communities who will be most affected in the design process from day one. It means leading with empathy and constantly, proactively checking these systems for bias. It's about building accountability right into the foundations.
And that really leaves us with the big, central question for our time, doesn't it? As these systems get more and more powerful, as they get woven deeper into the fabric of our society, how do we make absolutely sure they stay our tools and don't become our rulers? The way we decide to answer that question is going to define what it means to be governed in the 21st century.